Morning, guys. It's episode 151. Chill is coming. The bus apparently just dropped him off, so whatever that means. So we just thought we'd crap on with the chat room for a bit. So, because, yeah, our good friend, Giant Gina, who I haven't seen for a while, is here and he's saying some interesting stuff about Manan, which we may talk about in the show.
Good. We need more stuff to put in there.
Yeah. Yeah, they've gone real quiet on that. We thought there would be another chapter in 2.9, but I'm really beginning to wonder.
Starting to wonder too. I was expecting at least 3 chapters though, so 2-9.
They said that explicitly.
Did they? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That might be why I thought that.
Yeah. Maybe the last chapter. There's going to be a 2.10 at this point. I'm pretty sure. So 2.9, 2.10.
What about this notion? Well, maybe I should wait until the show. I just thought about this though, like the fact that this expansion with the strongholds will include the guild strongholds, which we now know about, and the planet conquering. I wonder if they do have a very short little story that just kind of ties the planet conquering into the overarching story.
That's an interesting question.
Would certainly enhance the whole rising tensions between factions concept.
Yep. Which is sort of the direction
Seems to be the foundation, yeah.
Yeah. Forged Alliances Part 2, as Ben said. Alright, so what did Gina actually say? 2.9 is probably just the housing stuff because Manan would come with a level cap increase. Well, maybe. We knew they were going to put a flashpoint there, or we thought they were. And so that wouldn't actually be a planet for the expansion because, in theory, you can wander around. But maybe it is for the expansion. Yeah, it would be a shame, as Neptune said, for it just to be a daily hub. Manan will probably be the Makeb of the next expansion. No! Not Waterworld. Come on. Had enough of that with Vashir in World of Warcraft.
That had to be Cataclysm or something, huh?
Was it? Yeah, would have to be, yeah.
Because I don't remember a water world type environment. I quit at the end of Ice Crown.
Well, that was kind of the peak, to be honest. Didn't get much better than that.
Have you tried out Hearthstone yet?
No.
So you know who Willie Dills is? He's one of the co-hosts in The Instance.
Oh, God. Yeah. That's one of the reasons I stopped listening to that show, in fact.
Well, he does. He co-hosts Hearthstone with 2 others, but the other guy, so it's a guy and a girl. The other guy that was on it, I actually heard some post-show conversations, and she was talking about how she was getting into WildStar, and he was talking about how he had gotten into WildStar and realized he just really didn't enjoy it. It was too much like WoW, and honestly, now he's just back into playing SWTOR again.
Oh, good.
I was like, oh,
yeah.
Awesome.
I had that 7-day pass for WildStar, but I just can't be asked. I just don't care.
I tried to play every 7 days because I got a 7-day pass too. I think I did 4.
Well, that's not too bad.
But, I mean, that was me trying to do it every day, and I did 4.
All right, we have some information from SWTOR Miner, which we probably can't really say directly in the show. He confirms that Manan is a flashpoint planet, just a flashpoint for now. And that's based on what he's found so far.
So, Kranatoko, how do you say Hearthstone? Because when I'm talking to my Android phone and letting it do the text for me, I say Hearth, and it spells it right. So what is your
Is it Hearthstone? Because it's a hearth, basically, as in where the fireplace is. I know it's a Hearthstone is in WoW, but the Americans say Hearthstone.
It might be an American, non-American differentiation.
Could be. In case you're wondering why we're just crapping on. Chill is apparently on his way, so we'll give him a few more minutes. He said he's nearly here, so that's why we haven't just started. And you haven't got me doing the intro again.
So nothing, yeah, with Wildstar, I'd been told 20 is when it gets really interesting. And then as I was nearing 20, I heard, yeah, 30 is when it gets really interesting. And then the next thing I heard was, yeah, actually 35 is when it gets really interesting. I'm like, dude, if I got to keep grinding just to wait for it to get interesting, no thanks. Let me buy a max level character with in-game currency.
You might
and
as
I
well.
might see if it gets interesting.
The leveling experience from what I experienced during a beta weekend was just, wow. It's like wow before it got better. As far as leveling goes. Now, apparently, Swirtle Miner explained the story for none to you, Red, on a Twitch stream.
Yeah, and I've been really good about not talking about it.
Oh, all right.
I asked for spoilers.
Right.
And he hasn't published certain things because he is trying to be a certain degree sensitive to, general public. Which is cool.
Mm. Yeah, we don't want to spoil it for ourselves or, well, except for you. Or for anyone else for that matter.
Yeah, actually, I did not have it on the stream. I think I actually shut down the stream once we started talking about the spoilerifics.
Jay, I actually fixed that in post because I kind of screwed it up. Branded tea, what am I drinking? It's Dilmah Extra Strength, just out of interest. It's my tea of choice. It's very strong. I leave the tea bag in there. But I'm so used to it now, it doesn't really affect me. Teo.
So you did do you re-edited that?
I did, because I screwed up my read of it, so...
My Pocket Cast app, or whatever it's called, the one you told me to get.
Mm-hmm.
Last week's episode, I went because I was going to listen to it to see how you did on all the editing and everything. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, it bugged like 5 or 10 minutes in. It just shut down, and I'd have to re-download it. And I was like, I trust you.
I tried to make it seamless, but yeah. Another tactical flashpoint. Yeah, well... It'd better have a hard mode. Please, hard modes. More hard modes. I'm sick of Hammer Station.
I mean, I'm going to be honest. I totally get it. Like, we do need more hard modes. I really do think that they're not going to give us hard modes until the expansion. Because, I mean, you think about it, they came out with the last expansion, and what did they do? All the ones that weren't hard modes yet, they gave us hard modes. They don't have anything left except for these tacticals that they haven't given us hard modes in.
Yes. Yes, no, you're right. I'm so
and
sick
hopefully the next story bits and pieces continue to give us more flashpoints that also become hard modes when the expansion shows up.
True. Absolutely true.
Because I do feel like this entire time period we've been very, very empty on hard modes for 50 to 55.
It does seem that way. It really does. Tier 2 hard modes that Ben suggests would be nice, as in sort of nightmare-y.
Dude, how awesome would that be if they just revamped every single existing hard mode and made it nightmare for 60 or whatever the next cap might be.
Cool.
I suspect Colocoid will never be a hard mode just because of the puzzle boss. That would just be, people standing at the switches. Oh, good God.
Yeah.
It's hard enough when you pug it.
Dude, the worst part for that one is the turrets for me.
No.
You have to do them twice.
One round. Yeah, 1 round will be okay. 2 rounds, it's not so much.
You have to do it twice. It's like, oh my God. And it's like, I have literally been like up late, and that's the random one I got into, and I hit the second set of turrets and started falling asleep. Like, literally falling asleep.
Yeah. Yorkshire tea? Is that a brand? Yorkshire. I've tried a lost Long Island iced tea, by the way.
Oh, that's
I was so disappointed. It wasn't tea. It was just alcohol. You would have thought.
So the only way that I would ever do Colicoid in a hard mode is if I were on my Guardian. So that I can leap to friendlies and leap to enemies and never have to be trapped behind a door.
Right. Yeah, there is that. Can you actually leap through the fields?
You cannot. Every single one of them has an angle where you can jump from the side and get to the enemy on the back.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh wow. All right. Sorry for the empty banter while well, it wasn't empty. It was pretty good. The banter while we waited for Jill. Jill, you are here.
Yeah.
We need to pick a winner.
Oh,
Do that.
the other thing, Tio.
Mm.
That interview will happen tomorrow.
Excellent. All right. Let's see.
He was real responsive. So.
Cool.
Oh, good.
And I just got an email with some reservations, so that's looking good.
Let's say. Oh, are we allowed to talk about that?
They have not made any mention one way or the other.
All right. So all we'll say at this point is you may be seeing more of Chill next week in a wider context. We're really excited by it, but we're not really sure if we're allowed to talk about it. So,
Right.
but it's happening. So, yeah, yeah.
It'll come clearly soon enough. All
Indeed, indeed.
You know, my
Alright,
problem
so-
is I'm sitting here spinning my wheels planning for Vegas, and it's still 4 months away. And the more planning I do, I realize I'm going to be spending like thousands, and I'm not even going to gamble.
right.
Well, think about how much the international tickets costing us.
I know.
Yeah.
Red will tell you about it after the show, because you at least should know. Let's
Okay.
see. All right, winner. So how many entries were there? Six.
Yes.
All right. I could get the dice out again, but I think the die, I guess.
It worked last week.
Yeah, it did. But random.org is actually working. It's 5. The
Okay.
winner is 5, which is...
there you go. Maria
Luckily, you're reading that name.
We'll make it up as I go. All right.
Oh, Tio, the stuff at the very bottom underneath the wrap up. You're pushing that to another day?
Isn't that what you're... Oh, no. That was just for some notes. Really, I'm expecting you to talk to it.
Okay. Good.
And-
I'm ready for that.
All right. So you don't have to... You can quote whatever you like from it, or nothing, and just tell us what the summary is. That'll be the last piece of feedback. All right, guys. Well, we've actually got all to talk about this week, so it doesn't really matter that we're sort of starting a bit late. So this will probably be a shorter show,
Okay.
which is just fine. All right. So you got the winner there, Chill, number 5. Yep.
I do. Let me get Audacity rolling. I've already set
do.
my levels.
Okay.
And Audacity, I think I'm ready to go.
Red is doing
Test,
something with its dog.
test. Yeah, that's right.
All right. Let's...
Vicky died.
Because I left it until we were actually going. All right, we have tweeted. On your M8. What kind of phone is that, Ben? It sounds familiar.
What's that?
No, I'm just talking to chat.
Hmm.
I'm talking to Ben, who's in the past or future or whichever it is. Yorkshire. English tea, get a special place. Yorkshire.
Sorry about that.
English breakfast with Earl Grey? That's some sort of travesty, Mr. Gina. I'm sorry. Earl Grey still tastes like mud to me.
You don't like Earl Grey?
No. I know Captain Picard does, but not me.
There's a lot of orange flavor in it.
HCC1, of course.
Interesting.
Thought that sounded familiar. Thanks, Ben.
Cream and sugar. It's great. Hide the flavor.
If I had cream and sugar. All right, are we ready to go?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, we're... even though it doesn't matter anymore, we were going to have next week's show a day early, but we're not now, so doesn't matter.
Right.
Usual day next week. When you sit.
Yep. My Audacity's rolling. I'm ready to go. Going in 5.
All right. Yep. Red, you're recording?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right. Hi, and welcome to the OotiniCast, the podcast that you thought smelled bad on the outside. This is episode 151, being recorded on Wednesday, July 9th, 2014. I'm your host, Chill, and with me is my co-host, Tio. Hi, Tio.
Hey, guys.
And with us today is Red. So, Red, what you been up to?
PvP, ground PvP, getting a ton of comms, just ridiculous amount of comms. Comms that I can't spend quickly enough, that I've started, like, some of my characters, I've been converting them into ranked comms before I even get the Obroin because I don't want to stop queuing long enough to actually go buy an item, strip it out, replace it, yada, yada, yada. So, but no, it's been great. The only frustration being, you know, of course, as a reminder, you can't get above Valor 40 until you're level 40, and if you're trying to level through PvP, I mean, if you don't want to do the frickin' item dance of buy and return within the 2-hour time limit in order to keep them, you know, kind of banked in those items, med packs and adrenals. That's what I've been doing. Tons of med packs and adrenals, which my PvP main has been loving. I've got like 400 now, so. Otherwise, I leveled, what, 3 characters? Because I guess Double XP just finished on Monday. Yeah. Wow, that feels like forever ago. I did a lot of leveling. I played 3 different characters, 2 scoundrels actually. Started one from scratch, got from 0 to 25. Had another one that was already level 25, got that to 35. And then on the Imperial side, I played some GSF and GSF, and then I did actually do the class story because with the double XP and those frickin' XP boosters. Really, you only need to do class story and maybe an occasional GSF, and you're going to stay on top of your experience. But I got him from 28 to 35. So lots in there. Didn't max cap any new characters, but when you've got 9, you're not in a rush to do any individual ones. I did encounter, though, in the Cellcath story, or in the Scoundrel story, I was happy to discover that there's a Cellcath, because you had mentioned there was one in the Consular on that previous episode. There is definitely one. He's not, like, fundamentally important, but he's in the cutscenes and, you know, burbles a little bit on mic, and it's at the end of your Chapter 1 story. It's a Scoundrel, so pretty neat. And I'm happy to say it's at the end of Chapter 1 if you want to go find it, because I'm not giving you any spoilers to the story.
Right. It's about the same level of importance on the Consular story.
Yeah. Otherwise, I did want to shout out to GTIG, and it was about Prestige, and I'm trying to remember what that was. Oh, he had an excellent idea that he already put on the show, but I'd actually been talking to my friends about it a few days beforehand. He needs the credit for having published it first. The Prestige score is great, and I really like the way that they've done it. And definitely, you know, we know that each individual item gives you a certain large amount value, 100 per unique item that you get unlocked. And then if you do multiples, it adds up 2 at a time. But that's a great way to kind of get yourself on those real estate boards. It would be really cool, and I doubt this is going to happen, but it would be genuinely cool if that actually transitioned into, okay, you get yourself up into this certain, you know, bracket of prestige because you spent this much time, you've unlocked this much, you've, you know, taken the time to set it up, and yada, yada, yada. But then if there was some kind of social networking aspect within the game where people would actually vote for which ones they think are best.
Oh, okay.
You know.
If that could be it could be entirely decoupled from the regular prestige score, and people could actually sort the directory based on that instead. I mean, that would work as well.
Like an additional column. Yeah, and it just needs to be, you know, you vote for it or you don't, and they could even have it resetting every month so that, you know, those people that are really interested in it could jump back into the prestige boards, tour some rooms, because if you've got it publicly listed, you can actually go see it. You can decide, does that person still deserve your vote, or does someone else want it, or whatever. But the whole social aspect, because I think that's really where the ranking would be a lot more engaging. And people, you're going to get ideas from other people, and you're going to fiddle around with your house. And yeah, I could maximize my score just by putting a unique item on every single hook in every single way I can possibly come up with, and maybe get a really high prestige score, but it might just look like a mess. Whereas those people that engage with the community be pretty cool. The other thing I was thinking about is, okay, so I know that they said on the live stream that there's no, or they didn't know if you could PvP, duel each other in your stronghold. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. If I'm on a PvP server and I give a key to a friend on the pub side so that they can be in my stronghold whether or not I'm online, and I get onto my imp tune with a bunch of friends, and my friend brings a bunch of friends, and then we all go to my stronghold because they're cross-legacy, cross-faction, we should be all able to cross-faction meet up in there and beat the crap out of one another, right?
That's interesting. Yeah.
I think so.
I mean, like, explicitly, they're not going to be able to damage the apartment itself, but we should be able to attack each other.
I think so.
True enough. Yeah, if they can walk in the front door, yeah. And you do your cross-faction thing. Interesting.
Yeah. And I'm curious what those different... I mean, hopefully, because they sounded intrigued and pleased, and we already know that you're supposed to be able to duel on the guild ship. Presumably, that's also going to be in our strongholds. I just think that would be a really cool extension. Because then, especially like these guilds that, they actually have a guild on both factions, they could even coordinate amongst themselves to, have little challenges against one another. They could do 4-man pre-mades that way, and you wouldn't have to worry about people intruding on the Outlaw's Den and screwing up your own community-generated content or whatever. You either let people in or you don't. But
could be fun.
The other thing I was thinking about is because we were having this conversation about what's the value or relevance, because we're always talking, the whole crafting stuff, and now we're going to have things that you can craft for your strongholds and presumably your guild ships or guild strongholds or whatever. But there's new perks and whatnot coming to the strongholds. It dawned on me, one of the things that could make every single crafter a lot more relevant is if they actually took augments and treated them like dyes. You could put it in, but it's consumed. You can't pull it back out. It's gone. Therefore, every single time you change a skin, you have to get a new augment. That means that 3 crafting specialties right there get a huge boost. A huge boost.
Right.
And then it would, that would really just, that would leave only a couple, that actually don't have items that they can make a whole ton of. But it was an idea, and I know people would absolutely hate that. But especially since augments don't change as gear gets leveled up, it seems like it would be a way of making augments more consistently relevant.
That makes sense.
And we totally neglected to mention on the show last week about rugs. That the one thing that you do have all the hooks on the ground, but we didn't describe that they do have a rug set up so you can lay down rugs underneath objects, and the hooks go on top of those. And so there is a little bit of stacking interaction. It's not like nothing can overlap or whatever. And the other thing we didn't really...
Very specific.
The other thing that we didn't clarify very well, and I realize that not a lot of people are talking about it yet, but also with the vast, tremendous variety of hook layouts that you get to choose from between your floor, your walls, your ceiling, and everything, you can orient the object in position within the hook. So if you've got a square and you put a chair that has a central peg, it's not four-legged, it's just got a center, you can move that center out to the corner or around. So you can actually position it. Did we
move it anywhere within the hook, the XY, and then rotate as you like? You can't resize, but you can move it within the hook, yes, and rotate.
Okay, side to side. I knew we talked about rotating and whatnot, but the side to side too, I think, just makes it so much more. You really do realize, and it's true, anybody needs to just watch that stream. I got a lot of people retweeting because I posted it on Twitter, but you need to watch that stream because they make it so abundantly clear. It's not a fixed grid. There's so much movement within it and everything. It's cool.
The floor thing seemed quite limited, though, in that you could just pick a surface for your floor. It wasn't like per
the rug
area. Yeah.
Yeah,
Rugs
yeah.
or whatever.
there, it seemed like each floor only had one, maybe two spots for a rug, and those didn't move with the hooks or anything. So it was you get a rug or you don't, and then you can put stuff on top of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I did get on today and actually rocked some PvP, and I also got onto my gunslinger. I did want to mention that for the first time in ages, and in fact, I ran into a huge frustrating moment because I got on my gunslinger for the first time, and it was the first time I played him since they changed my flash grenade.
Ah.
So I'm like, oh, there's 3 of them coming at me. Position, throw, and one of them stops.
Right.
Oh no! I was like, no! This is terrible. But no, actually, I had a lot of fun in there. Fortunately, I do have the max expertise. I'm certainly not full of broing, although I'm essentially there now after the little bit I played. I did end up really enjoying it. I just love that class. I may have to, well, 3.0 for sure, and we'll talk about it later, but I'll be going back to my gunslinger for sure. Yeah,
All right.
it was a good week.
Awesome. Tio, how about your week?
Kind of a quiet week in raiding with July 4th and people away. Bill was out the first day, which is just our regular 8-man, so I was tanking again on my Guardian. We did Nightmare Nephra, and then we went through and did the first 3 bosses in hard mode, Dread Fortress. We had a few goes at Corruptor Zero before we ran out of time. And yes, we did resort to CCing, crowd controlling the droids, the gold droids in each waves, given that they fixed that in 2.8.1. And yeah, we were making solid progress. We certainly would have done it the next day, except we were sort of missing Chill. We were going to fall back anyway to an 8-man because Turg was out too. And yeah, so what do we do
supposed to be
instead?
there, but yeah, I couldn't seem to wake up.
Mm-hmm.
I had set an alarm and apparently slept through the alarm, or it didn't go off. I really don't know because I never heard it.
Right.
So
So yeah, normally that would be our 16-man, but since we had not enough people anyway, with a lot of people away for the holiday, we fell back to 8-man. I can't remember who exactly we were. Yeah, we brought in Bo Daddy on his commando, and I think I stuck with my tank, and I think Bill did actually turn up. So yeah, we just did the story mode, Dread Palace via the Gridfinder. Just blew through that in, it was under like 90 minutes or something. It was very quick, of course. And we called it good. Now, aside from that, it was, of course, double XP week, and I made reasonable use of it. That was pretty much most of what I did this past week, and probably leveled too much. I played my gunslinger, who was literally just tipped over into level 30, all the way to level 49. Now, my
Nice.
goal was to get him to 44, just so I could do the World Arc on Corellia and actually take it to completion. Just get ready to do that, but I got all the way to 49. I've done the first area on Corellia, just doing the World Arc and the class quest, and partway through 49, so I'll just casually take that the rest of the way through, the goal being to get that World Arc complete, given that's one of the requirements for the Lore Master title and achievement. So that's why I'm doing that. Anyway, I sort of didn't really pay that much attention to the story this time because I was in a hurry, which I don't like doing, but I've already done the Smuggler story. I'll do it again at some point in the future. But there are some great lines in there. One was, intrigue makes me surly. I like that. There was probably my favorite, though, is he says, is there a special guilt power in the Force? Jedi always make me feel like I'm talking to my mom. There's some great stuff in there. So anyway, this whole week mainly just leveling, and did reasonably well, but in a way I'm glad double XP is over so I can relax again. I just felt that I had to be in there and taking advantage of it. But yeah, I did not do any gambling this week, but there's plenty of time for that. Anyway, that's my week. Over to you, Chill.
all
Oh,
right.
that event's still going on, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Completely forgot.
It's still going. Yep. First, a shout out to the chat room. Osh_13 is here. Ben_B55. Billiam. Dirty Spoons is here. Gaddock Teague. Then I'm Swotor Podcast is here. Ghost Mirror. Jay in Colorado. Kranatoko is here of the pack opening videos. Ludwig_swaps is here. Nepthan, Scordia Carnome, I'm going to guess. Swotor Minor is here. Beware 2, Caligari, Decion, Ferris Terran, Fiona, Giant Gina, Rikiri, Sinister Dexter, and Slager all here. Hi, everyone. Wow. Lots of people today. All right. Well, I took absolutely zero advantage of the double XP weekend. I decided that I've got enough high-end level characters, and I'm more interested in kind of working on my main 3 in-game characters. My PvE characters, my Shadow on the Republic side, because that's what we do operations with, and then I have a Sorcerer and a Sage. They're now level 55, and those are my 2 PvP tunes, one for each side. So, but I did a lot of gambling. I'm now up to 2 million credits with no Rancor and no Black Speeders so far. I've got a bunch of the golden certificates. I'm up to like 67 or so total. Spent some on some things, and I guess my alts will be showered with all sorts of junk later on. Because I feel the need to get at least one Rancor on one character. So I guess I'll be blowing some credits on that. So other than that, I just mostly worked on my PvP characters because that's the one in the casino. So I've been gambling and then doing Warzone sort of in between. And I should really get this Sage PvP up now that he's also 55, but I really haven't touched him much. So finally, I also watched Kranitoko's latest pack opening video, and I love the shout out to the podcast and also the new storyline that he's developing there. It's pretty dang fun.
We're going to shout out to him in our force back anyway, but yeah, we'll include the link to that in our show notes, and it is fantastic. I think the story is going really nicely, and we really do appreciate the shout out. Thank you.
So last time we shouted out to his pack opening, I went and commented so that I might be able to win something, and apparently it was already 2 days after the fact. Is that still the case?
I don't know.
Because it's the first time I sat down and watched one, and I realized, whoa, you can win prizes. I need to follow this guy some more.
Yeah, it's oddly addictive watching him open them. You really feel for him. Like when things are going well, you start yay, and then when he doesn't get something that he doesn't want, oh.
The commentary is hilarious, and it's a real shame he didn't get the Walker. God, yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, that'll bring us to the tip of the week, and we've got 6 of them. And Tio, why don't you start us off?
The first tip is from Mara of the White Legacy of the Empire Guild Exiled Then Banished on the Shadowlands server. If you're anything like me, leaving a turn on this ship can lead to a disorienting re-entry into the game. You might find yourself asking, where the heck am I going to end up when I get off this tin can? And using your ship's nav computer only to re-travel to the planet you are already hovering over. Oh, the lost credits! No more. The part of your UI that displays the instance owner will tell you exactly what part of the universe you're in while lounging on your ship. Unless altered, this is located alongside your character name in the top center of your screen. I'm sure most of you already know this, but for those of us who are a bit slower on the uptake, save those credits for Nashadar. Also, just wanted to point out that several of the component combinations on the Starship Assembly scenario of KDY have changed. Not sure if this came with 2.8.1, but if you're like me and have notated and memorized the correct answers, or if you use Dolphy's Guide that gives you the combinations, you'll be sorely disappointed when they no longer work. Haven't seen anything about this in the patch notes, so I wanted to get the word out. Now, there is a link that I found on Reddit to what currently apparently works as far as that particular level of KDY. So, yeah, you may just want to check that and make sure you're using the correct association.
I feel like this might have been mentioned before.
Is the link to the updated version?
Apparently. Well, people were commenting and saying it was correct, so I assume so.
Okay.
I remember seeing this before, but yeah, that was my thing, is it takes too much effort for me to set it up outside of the game.
Yeah. Well,
I'm obviously not a big proponent for mods, and I like that BioWare doesn't let other people do the work.
Oh, I should also mention I got really, really sick of KDY this week. I guess I didn't run that many times, but now I've done it a lifetime's worth, and
Right.
Done.
No, it's true. It's I was trying to do it this week too, and I realized, wow, even with friends, my conversation isn't good enough to make that fun anymore.
All right, second tip from Ferris Terran. Space mission pro tip. Bonus objectives count for achievements, whether or not you successfully complete the main mission. Very nice.
And our third tip and fourth. These are from Flesh and Caligari, and they both roughly reference the same thing.
Okay.
Flesh is the recruit officer for the Grievance Guild on the Republic side of the Jedi Covenant, and Caligari is our guildmate in Utini Knights. Now, Redna mentioned on episode 148 wanting a grid to help lay out the SWTOR UI. There's a very handy utility app you can download that does just that. Clovis Grid is what it's called. It will overlay a grid of squares of various sizes over your game so you can align UI elements as you like. It's a standalone exe file, so there's nothing to install. Options can be set by right-clicking the taskbar icon as well as exiting the app. Now, both the guys included a link to the SourceForge project from which you can download it. And I actually remember this. We referenced it a long time ago. But yeah, a very useful tip.
So my previous comment, cut it and put it after this. That's what I was talking about. This is the one I've seen before, and I didn't want to deal with something outside of the game.
Okay.
All right, next tip is from Mariash Mug, and wrote in, I'm a pretty new listener, which is why I have no idea how to pronounce that name. So hopefully this is a new tip as well. When trying to get the most out of consumable experience boosts, players can enter and remain in conversations to pause the boost countdown timer. For example, the player can use a Warzone experience boost, enter the Warzone queue, then speak with a companion. The player can then remain in the conversation until the Warzone pops. By following these steps, the player can go from Warzone to Warzone, having lost almost no time from their experience boost.
Yes,
Very
we have
nice.
brought that up before, but that particular combination, as in entering a conversation with your companion as a way of holding a Warzone XP boost, I don't think we ever talked about that specifically, but that's a really good tip.
Right.
Now-
Generally speaking, when you go in a conversation or when you log off, your buffs are frozen, but your debuffs keep ticking down. So
Right.
that's normally how it works. And,
Yeah, and the interesting thing I've
that's
noticed
how you
too
use it.
is the other thing I've noticed too is that your buffs freeze, but the cooldown on the ability still eliminates
Right.
itself. So like
That's an
rocket
awesome-
boots, I've been able to, hit it and I get out and my rocket boots are still going, so I can keep running. But it's well off of cooldown, so as soon as it wears off, I immediately pop my rocket boots again.
Nice.
And Jay was asking whether there was a timeout on conversations, and as far as I know, there is not. You'll
Only
get
if you're in group. If you're in a group where the other person can participate,
Yeah.
then it will time out.
Right.
But a solo conversation, I believe, unless you get logged out for inactivity, it will just stay up.
Yeah, this is also a good way to keep your stims up as well, because it freezes buffs.
Yep.
Yep.
All right, our last tip is from our guildmate Fiona. And she says, so Dekian and I decided that Double XP Week was the perfect time to ride the Tatooine Jawa balloon to the Datacrons. I was pretty much convinced I'd miss, but we made the jumps and meandered around the Sandcrawler to get our free gifts. Well done on making that jump the first time. I know I didn't, and I still screw it up occasionally. But anyway, the tip. We discovered that if one maybe falls... Hang on.
What was that noise?
Something's talking in his background.
Yep, one sec, let me just find it. Google should tell me. It's like an ad played. Don't know. Alright, anyway. Sorry about that. Anyway, the tip. We discovered that if one maybe falls off the crawler and doesn't have push or pull abilities, a Jedi Knight type can force leap within a duel up to another player who maybe didn't fall off the sandcrawler and is standing in the little nook that holds the Datacron. Suffice it to say, we both got our +3 strength Datacron due to some creative thinking. It was very exciting to make this discovery. Maybe you all already knew about it, but I was pretty thrilled. Ain't nobody got time for running back and waiting for that balloon again. Ain't that the truth?
Or if you're on a PvP server, You can jump to an enemy that's already up there, or to a friend that's already up there.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yep. Yep.
You don't need to
And
duel or anything. As a guardian.
Sorcerers and sages can also pull friends if they're already up.
Yep.
I've done this on all 9 of my characters, and I think I've only actually ridden that balloon once.
Yeah.
And I made a drinking game out of it, and I don't really remember jumping down, but apparently I made it because I got the codex entry.
All right. By random allotment, the winner is the hard to pronounce Mariasha mug. So, congratulations. You're the winner of the M8R3 code, courtesy of BioWare, and a cartel market pack from the latest shipment, courtesy of the OotiniCast. And if you have tips, please send them in to OotiniCast@gmail.com. We normally record on Wednesday afternoons Pacific time. That will bring us to the holofeed. Tio?
Well, there's pretty much no news because it appears BioWare went on holiday for July 4th. So there's like nothing. So let's talk about what there was to talk about. Presumably for July 4th, a new item appeared on the cartel market. Dolphy reported on this. It's a new rest regen health item called Celebration Mishap.
Yes, I saw the video.
Pretty awesome. There is a video of it on Dolphy's site. The description says, celebrate in style with these fireworks. You recover health and your class's energy pool while celebrating. So yeah, it's basically you lay some stuff down. It's like you do something to set off some fireworks and it all kind of explodes. It's pretty cool.
You know what would have made this cooler was like you're regenerating, and if you go through the whole sequence and then they explode, it actually takes health off of you.
I know, it doesn't look very healthy, does it?
No.
Also on the cartel market, that regen item is purchasable still. Check this morning for 400 cartel coins. Also new on the cartel market is the first grand pet pack. Contains one pet drawn randomly from the cartel, contraband, and bounty packs found on the cartel market. And Dolphy also has a list of all of the potential pets that you can pick up.
I know there's some good pets out there, but boy, that just sounds like a... I can't imagine getting something I would really like out of that.
Yeah, there's a lot of really ugly pets. So 225 cartel coins for a random chance.
Now, maybe the chat room can answer this, but have you guys ever seen a pet for sale on the GTN for very much at all whatsoever?
Only a handful, like the Krautokian monkey lizards. They go for a lot.
Okay.
The ones that aren't ugly, probably.
Yeah, because I just know, like, I've got something
some
like
of the spaceships.
35, 40 pets on my gunslinger, and I don't think I've ever spent more than 50K.
Yeah. Some people like the spaceship ones, and some of those go for quite a bit, but I think those are coming down too, especially now that they put out more of the spaceship ones. When there's only like 1 or 2 of them, they were quite expensive.
Yeah, especially when everybody realized you could have 2 pets out if one of them was flying.
Right.
Now, from the live stream last week where they were talking about the Galactic Strongholds, someone snapped a screenshot, which I'll include in the show notes, and link to the Reddit post that described it, which included a list of speeders that you could place, and one of them was a Mana D5 submersible. Looks like an underwater mount. Most likely it's just a speeder that just looks like an underwater mount, but it's just a regular speeder. So the MANA is presumably reference to Manan, but who knows? Yeah, so that's kind of cool. We know Manan is coming from all of the hints dropped, so...
Well, we've already gotten scuba diving outfits, but we certainly haven't been swimming.
Yes.
And you can get in GSF speeders, but you can't take them into space, so...
That's true. Now... Bounty Contract Week is back, as we mentioned last week. It'll be running through to next Tuesday. Looks like it finishes server reset, 7 a.m. Central Time on Tuesday. Now, as you know, 2.8.1 kicked off the double Warzone comms and double credits from doing Warzones as ranked and regular, and that will last until 2.8.2, which... following the usual cadence, should be 3 weeks, which means that will end on 21 July, and that will be 2.8.2. and that will give us a week of the Gree event, and then nothing until 2.9, which is 4 weeks later, on the 19th of August. So as far as content goes, we don't know what's in anything else. As far as we know, it's just GSH, Galactic Strongholds on 2.9 in 2.9. Now, something they just have not talked about for a while is part 2 of the Forged Alliances arc that kicked off back in 2.7. We're sort of expecting it here, but it hasn't been confirmed, and that's probably where there's going to be a Manan something, probably a flashpoint. It'd be nice if it was a daily area, but who knows? Yeah, they just haven't mentioned this. So it's at least possible that that might be quietly dropped, and it's just going to be GSH in 2.9. We don't know. No hint of that. I mean, I really hope it's there. But basically, it's 6 weeks. 6 weeks until 2.9, and there's nothing on the PTS yet.
And it's what, like a week and a half until the Gree show up, and then and then presumably the Rakghoul at some point. I wonder if maybe they're. I wonder if they're delaying putting the Galactic Strongholds onto the test server because there actually will be some of that content on the test server, and they just don't want to release it yet. They've been getting better at being really quiet on stuff, so.
They have, and there is a whole marketing, let's build excitement and stuff, which is great. But at some point, you do need to have players actually test it.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm concerned about that too. It's honestly, I wouldn't be too concerned about the Galactic Stronghold testing, really, because that doesn't, it's not operations with boss mechanics. But the world conquering stuff has me concerned because that is engaged out in the real world with stuff going on that needs to be tested and everything, with some degree of stuff in it. I don't know. We'll see.
It was mentioned, but I wasn't able to corroborate that there was some internal QA contracts testers actually brought in to Bioware Austin, which it's running right now and will be ending soon. So maybe they brought in people from outside to test. So I guess you could argue that the PTS hasn't really been that successful as far as bringing players to test content, but surely the housing would bring a lot of people in to have a look at it and at least put it through its paces, and maybe the planet conquering stuff too.
Especially with the fervor with which people have gotten excited now that we've actually seen this live stream. People are... I haven't heard anybody complaining. I mean, some boo-hoo because they didn't understand how the hooks work, but as soon as people actually saw it and understood it, I've been really impressed that the whole community seems to be taking it very well.
Yeah. All right. There's going to be another live stream this week. We'll report on that in next week's show. But yeah, other than that, pretty much nothing, except we do have the Sniper and Gunslinger Q&A, which we carried over from last week. And Red, you're going to talk about this for us.
Indeed. So I'm not going to read the entire question. What was his name? It was what Mace Windy, who is the class rep for the Gunslingers. He organized all this, but what he did is he actually gave lots of background and what he was thinking, and then he posts the question. So I'm just going to read the question for each. And the PvE question is, does the combat team believe that a Gunslinger's defensive and raid utility capabilities... Does the combat team believe that a Gunslinger's defensive and raid utility capabilities are enough to compensate for the relatively low sustained single target damage and overall AoE damage without exploiting scatter bombs? Right. If not, what changes do you have in mind, and what time can we expect those changes to occur? Overall, what they're saying is, and what's very interesting in these questions in general, is that we're seeing that BioWare is gearing up and has already started moving to a very new philosophy for class balance. And Musco actually clarifies pretty clearly here, and this point is worth mentioning on its own. While we are on the topic of damage versus utility, or utility tax as some may call it, let us clear up some confusion here. As we are currently still in the process of transitioning away from the old way of thinking, and we have to explain our current balance philosophy based on a combination of old and new thinking. The old way of thinking, and this is for Game Update 2.0 and before, Sentinel, Marauder, and Gunslinger Sniper need to bring the most DPS and the most utility, or they will not be brought to operations because they cannot tank or heal. Effectively, the pure DPS should do a little bit more damage than all the other pure DP or all the other DPS options that could also be a tank or healer. The new way of thinking is that every damage-dealing specialization should bring some utility. No class or classes should have absolute damage dominance over others, though this must also come with the general understanding that there will always be differences that can lead to players calling out best and worst specializations, because all the specializations are different, and we don't intend to turn this game into checkers in an effort to create perfect balance by eliminating all diversity. So I'm glad they're holding true to that. They're trying to find solutions and ways for all of the classes to actually bring an equal ops utility as the individual advanced classes, so that the issues that the Gunslinger are facing right now. The biggest issue that the Gunslinger is facing right now in PvE is the fact that, flat out, their umbrella and the utility that they bring to the ops group makes them a need for the progression groups. So they're going to have one Gunslinger or Sniper in there for sure. Their DPS, sustained DPS, is lower than most of the classes at this stage. They will not be getting DPS buffs until 3.0, the expansion. It is not going to be happening until then, because that's when they will be fully implementing this new philosophy, which is a very big deal. In the expansion after Galactic Strongholds, we intend to give all of the damage dealers some utility, such that operation group leaders will want some utility or another from every damage dealer. At that time, we intend to make the damage output closer between each damage-dealing specialization as well. But we cannot do this in a regular game update because it is a massive overhaul to our existing systems and design philosophies, which sounds like this is almost more confirmation that the expansion will be bringing a higher level cap, because that's the easiest way to do it. You can change your stat contributions for DPS and yada yada yada, and then you can change how these, and these new abilities that balance out all the classes and stuff. But yeah, it takes a significant amount of time to implement. So obviously this is an expansion. So for now, they're not going to give the Gunslingers or even the Sentinels necessarily the highest DPS in the group. Gunslingers got their Umbrella, Sentinels got their, what is it, Predation or Inspiration or whatever it's called, that boosts the entire ops group by 5%.
Right.
Because of that, they're not going to be the #1 DPS on their own. But I feel like if they actually do, I'm hoping that this isn't going to be homogenization. Yes, it's great if everybody brings utility. We better not be bringing the same utility. But it sounds like they're trying to avoid that. I feel like at the point when every single advanced class actually brings something to the table, then they should honestly return to the fact that a pure DPS has nothing to do but DPS. If everybody's bringing equal utility on some scale, then Gunslingers and Marauders should have, again, slightly higher DPS. Make it 3% or 5%, but not blown out of the water. But you need those other people to have the full utility of the ops group, so you're only going to have one of them. But I can understand the philosophy. As for the PvP question, how will you address the survivability issues which Gunslingers currently are facing in arenas? They're struggling. Snipers, they be hurting. This is partially a combination of the fact that snipers, gunslingers are virtually always first target. Community in general is terrified of gunslingers and snipers, and they know that they're just weak enough that you can focus them beyond the healer, and if you mez out a healer or keep a healer occupied, you can get those gunslingers and snipers down and out of the way, and then you don't have to worry about them. I feel like actually in the current stage, Sages and Sorks are a bigger threat. But again, we get to hear that effectively, because of the PvE utility that Gunslingers bring, they don't want to be giving them more survivability because it's going to impact PvE, and it's going to be a situation where you've got a ranged DPS who already has survivability by virtue of being a ranged, and they're bringing this incredible group utility. Now you're going to make them even more survivable. It makes them kind of a go-to. Your healers don't have to try if you've got gunslingers in the group. So they've actually asked. They said they aren't. They do have some plans. They're not ready to talk about them. They are asking for the community to go ahead and give up their own ideas as well. But we're not going to be seeing this for a while either.
Right. They also mentioned that thing that was on the test server where they made dodge and evasion grant, as they call it, practically full of vulnerability, but then pulled it out before it went live because they were concerned that it'd be too powerful.
It's basically God mode, so yeah, that was never going to fly.
Which is funny because most classes have a gun mode.
Yeah, exactly, and it doesn't last that long, so I don't know. It seems to me like they could have made it work, but yeah. So I guess looks like they're gonna have to suck it up for a while because basically they're just looking for options, which means they don't really have anything in the cards right now.
Well, and excuse me, the wild card question actually leads into, I think, why gunslingers are not going to be getting any immediate attention. They're already being examined pretty inclusively, but the wild card question is, what has the combat team drawn up since the previous set of questions for gunslingers, because this is their second, about the present state of engineering saboteur specialization, allowing them to be able to have higher damage output but still being an AoE spec. Related to this, can we expect an official brainstorm thread where devs and the community can work together to discuss all these possible changes? And they say there will be major changes to the Saboteur Engineering Gunslinger Sniper in the expansion after Galactic Strongholds. At this time, we cannot discuss all the details of these changes, but we can say that the changes will address the damage done by scatter bombs and the clunky feeling of the specialization without eliminating area of effect capabilities. It is possible that we might even decide to address the scatter bombs issue in a prior update, but would Saboteur Engineering players want this skill toned down if they are not also receiving an overhaul to the rest of their skill tree with it? Let us know. The scatter bomb issue, by the way, is the fact that if you position yourself, if you're next to a crate or a wall or whatever, when you use your hightail it, you lay a string of scatter bombs behind you. If you run into an object, you lay them down all on top of yourself in one location, and you can virtually one-shot most classes, especially like an operative or an assassin who sneaks up behind you in their DPS and they want to unload, and you pop your hightail it, and it just explode on them. And usually in a PvP environment, you're going to be having all of your AoE abilities around yourself anyway, so they're walking into a soup of death in the first place, and then you just nuke them. And I think this ties into why they originally nerfed the AoE damage of Flyby and Orbital Strike previously, and this is why Gunslinger's DPS has been nerfed overall. It significantly reduced one of the key damage abilities in the priority, and they've never addressed any kind of balance for that. But at the time, they did say that they were going to be rearranging talent points. They had some fuzzy ideas about, both Sharpshooter and Saboteur and what they were going to be trying to do with it, and that the two trees were going to be shaken up quite a bit in order to address this issue, because they just never meant for Flyby or Orbital Strike to even be a part of the primary damage output of a Sharpshooter Gunslinger. They've never returned to finish that, and that's why, as I talked on previous shows, I put my Gunslinger on the board because I'm waiting to find out what my gunslinger is going to be.
Right.
Like I could play Dirty Fighting. That seems to be the best of both worlds in most cases right now. But I want to know what the other two are like because, well, I want the devs to be done before I commit my time to it. Same time, they're great. They're a lot of fun. Saboteur actually talking. Can I shout out to ToroCast on this one to you?
Sure.
ToroCast actually interviewed Mace Windy. He did a really, really good interview and his thoughts on it and everything. And honestly, listening to him talk, apparently he's really played a lot of the middle tree, Saboteur engineering. And it's inspired me to actually get on and start playing my Gunslinger again, just to enjoy the tree that I've played the least in its purest form. It's fun. Gunslingers and snipers, what problems people might complain about the class, they are a lot of fun to play. As long as you can get past the cover mechanic. I know some people that's just not their play style, but I just love it. So otherwise, I mean, honestly, these are good answers. They're at least telling us what they're thinking and giving us dates. Yeah, it's a shame it's further away, but at least we know they actually have some. I think we're going to actually see a reinvention of the Gunslinger with the next expansion after Galactic Strongholds. And in fact, this could be quite good for the class. I hope they actually might have such big plans for the other advanced classes where people that have been playing the same classes since launch, rather than just having their top tree ability raised up a little bit higher, we might actually see some new priorities, new rotations, new gameplay styles coming with the expansion.
All right.
Try ban active card.
Yeah, it's just not working.
I've got to find whatever's doing that. Anyway, lastly in the news, just a reminder that the Community Cantina will be arriving in San Diego for Comic-Con on Friday, 25th July. Marshall Carr, who was our guest last week, will be there and has requested from the community that if you have any questions that you would like him to put to the developers who turn up at the Community Cantina, you can send them to us, OotiniCast@gmail.com, and we will forward them on to Marshall. So yeah, take advantage of that.
Yeah, or if they're short, tweet them at Darth Pops.
At Darth Pops, and that's the news.
All right, Community Corner. The Utini Templars rating report from Greg. G'day, guys. Due to work commitments, I couldn't make it on Wednesday night, so we pushed our raid off until Thursday night. Our intention was to have a crack at Dread Fortress Hard Mode, but due to some start time mix-ups, we ended up just running a quick Dread Fortress via Group Finder. With the school holidays finishing next week, hopefully we can get all of our group together and have a red-hot crack at Dread Fortress and start to give Paradroid a run for their money.
Good luck.
Absolutely, yep. As always, anyone interested in running with the Templars, check out our post on the OotiniCast forums or contact me in-game on Evewins, Evewyns. Cheers, guys.
Wins, I believe.
Eve wins? Okay. Cheers, guys, and have a great week.
All right, and just a quick roundup of a couple of podcasts. I wanted to mention Flashpoint from the Oceanic Gamer. They have a new format, new intro, new bumpers, new everything, though they are going to continue to cover SWTOR in addition to other MMOs, which they've been doing for a while. They will also be doing some pop culture stuff in addition. So yeah, definitely worth checking out. It's a couple of Australian guys, David and Simon. Simon has been on the show before. Yeah, it's very entertaining and very Australian humour. And also wanted to mention the SWTOR Escape podcast, episode 45 from last week. That was with their raid leader, Markia, who, it turns out, they were describing their raid group. I think that's the Lords of Light. It turns out they run for almost exactly the same time we do, like 2-hour and 3-hour session every week, and their progression is roughly equivalent to ours. They call themselves they are doing casual progression, which very much matches what our own raid group is doing. We don't pretend to be hardcore in any sense. We don't raid long enough each week, but why not casual progression? It means we don't burn through the content, and that's working out pretty well, as it turns out. We've still got stuff to do.
That's right.
Anyway, that's it.
Okay. That'll bring us to the force feedback, where we read out your tweets and emails. And the first one is from Granatoko, and I added him onto my YouTube subscriptions this week. I thought I already had him, but I went ahead and added him when I discovered I hadn't. Anyway, he writes, here's the latest Hypercrate video, and there's a YouTube link. It'll be in the show notes. As mentioned before, a small surprise for you guys for the support. Yes, it was great, as mentioned before. It's surprisingly satisfying watching him do those, both the story and then watching him actually open everything and describe them and show what everything looks like, and it's really good.
Yes, it is.
It's surprisingly entertaining. If you think that watching someone else, gamble on packs doesn't sound very interesting, give it a try. All right, at SWTOR app. Tweets working it on login and audio. A sneak peek of the game room's background as well.
Now, this is at App. They're developing various things, which we've talked about previously, and this looks like an online version of Sabak. So, the famous card game from mainly the books.
Right.
Very similar to poker. But, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they come up with.
All right. Billy Sy writes in, okay, first things first, I have a limited amount of money to pay for the game. So I buy time cards. Usually, I play until I'm low on time or out of it. I was subbed when they said that you had to be for the five rooms. My question is, if I got a time card for 2 months and run out of time and then resub a day or two later, do I get to keep the 5 rooms or go down to 3 or none at all? I hope you can help. Thanks a bunch.
So I read through the terms and conditions on Galactic Strongholds, and as far as I can tell, if you were subbed on May 11, you have got the unlock forever. Basically, you will have the Nar Shaddaa Sky Palace with 5 rooms unlocked.
Right.
If your sub, say your sub elapsed the next day, you would still have that unlock. Of course, you cannot access that with early access on 19 August unless you have active game time again. So if you kicked off on 19 August, you could then get into your Nar Shaddaa Sky Palace with its 5 rooms. So that seems to be the way it works. If you were subbed at the point when those gates, those thresholds pass, you get the unlocks and you keep them forever. But we don't know for sure. It's a bit of an edge case, but that's the best guess.
All right.
And a reminder, you have to be subbed by 15 July if you weren't subbed back on May 11 to get the Nar Shaddaa Sky Palace unlocked with the 3 rooms. 3 rooms. Yep. 15 of July.
All right. Ferris Taryn wrote in, wild thought while listening to OotiniCast episode 150. We might see a watery stronghold with the upcoming Manan expansion.
Yeah, possibly.
Cool.
I still think we'll see water out the windows, maybe, but that's about
exactly.
it.
Which would be still pretty cool. And there's a lot of neat things that could be done with that visually and artistically.
Though, note that this will not be in 2.9. It's pretty clear they're only going to have the 4 strongholds with the actual release of it. And as we know, the expansion, it's unlikely the expansion itself will be on Manan, because we're probably going to see Manan a lot sooner. The X-Pack, which will be the extra 5 levels or whatever, well, who knows? Who knows?
That's right.
And we're all just so eager to see what Drum & Cost is even going to look like.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Even the next writer may not know about the next expansion yet. Swotor Minor wrote in, I don't see how they could afford to not bring the Swotor public test server up this week. So much testing needed in only 6 weeks, unless the date slipped.
Somehow I don't think they can slip the date at this point. I mean, they could, but that would go down really, really badly. So I don't think they are. I suspect they're dropping everything else they possibly can to get this done. And I suspect that internal testing may be what they've done instead. It's entirely possible they've given up on the PTS as a proper way to test new content. I hope not.
Right.
And no, because, I mean, what little's been done has certainly been helpful.
Well, maybe.
And in chat, Swotor Minor agrees that he doesn't think Manan will be the expansion planet. So,
yeah, I mean, the thing that I'm thinking is, I just remember when we did the closed test for
Galactic Starfighter.
The iterations from week to week based off of our feedback was startling. I mean, when we first started playing, it was terrible. More than just visual problems. I mean, you know, if you recall, your HUD would not show up 50% of the time, and I mean, there's crazy stuff. But week to week, they improved it tremendously.
Yeah, the HUD looked completely different within just 1 or 2 little iterations. Yeah, it was good. All right. Greg wrote in, hey guys, thought I'd send a quick message with some thoughts on the Double XP week and my progress during it. I mainly concentrated on 2 characters this week, my Sage and my Scoundrel. Got my Sage from 45 to 54. That's very nice. From 45 to 50, I pretty much burnt myself out on Kuat Drive Yards. Although a great tip for Kuat Drive Yards is that if you do it with guildmates, it is much quicker and pain-free.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, not pain-free, but Quicker.
Relatively. After I hit 50, I got to 54 through 4 lots of CZ 198 dailies, and 1 Black Hole Weekly, and 1 Section X Weekly. The XP gains are insane there. Yes, dailies are usually good for that sort of thing. I leveled my Scoundrel from 43 to 48 just by doing class quests, no side quests at all, although I think I did a few war zones too. I love the double XP week, and if anyone from BioWare is listening, we need more of them. Having a whole week completely took away the pressure of thinking that I had to log in constantly to take advantage. As someone who has completed all the class stories and most of the planet arcs, it allows me to choose how I want to level and how fast I want to level. As a side note, my son Jack, who I think may be the youngest Utini Knight at age 8, very nice,
Utini
leveled...
Squire.
There we go. Leveled his Scoundrel from 17 to 38. Very nice. Hope you all had a great week and leveled lots of alts.
Wouldn't that be Utini Padawan?
Oh, if you want to be like that.
And P.S. With Stronghold info, I'd almost forgotten about the new guild stuff being released. Utini Around the Clock Planet Domination.
Well, let's hope we see that sooner rather than later. And let's hope it's in 2.9. It's supposed to be.
Yeah, I can't wait. At RI_Kiri, broken ankle and leg emote in honor of Harrison Ford in conjunction with the episode 7 release.
So, as everyone may have heard, Harrison Ford had some sort of altercation with the door of the Millennium Falcon on the set of filming episode 7. There's all kind of rumours swirling around this. Apparently it's not actually going to affect the release date, which will be December 2015, so that's still happening, but they had to rejuggle things a little. I mean, he's an old guy, over 70, but apparently he's healing nicely, so all good for, next year.
But the suggestion is that the broken leg emote is there one, or they're saying there should be one?
You're saying there should be one, and
okay,
yeah, it's kind of funny, but.
All right, SWTOR short.
No, that's also from Rikiri.
Okay. SWTOR short log is too strong. YouTube video link. And have you guys seen this video?
It's just a short 2-minute video of some guy who got stuck on a log and was using various emotes, dance emotes and stuff.
Oh.
Because he's stuck in the log. He got just trapped, in that.
He's sort of floating
fall.
Above it. It's kind of
the permanent fall animation. So he's just sitting there, and he's watching his teammates running by, and he's like, "Look, they're just running right past me."
Funny. I'm looking at it now.
But he's not stuck in the starting area, so he doesn't have the deserter.
It mostly affects his upper body. His legs are kind of in one position for the most part.
Yep. It's humorous.
That's funny. All right. Chong wrote in, I found Superman. And he has a picture of Superman next to Wonder Woman on the fleet.
Yeah, boy, superheroes in SWTOR.
Yeah, people do have fun with that sort of thing. And Mariah wrote in, missing my fun operation runs with the Jawa Joyride and the Paradroid 16. Wishing you all fun and wipe-free runs. I finished episode 150, another great show. Teeny Crew, I want my Karaga's mouse droid to work like my new Roomba in my stronghold.
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah.
All right, at Mustin Death. On one of your podcasts, you said that the PvP relics were the best. Are they still currently the best relics? And
Madmar responded, pre-hard mode raid ones, which are item rating 180. Yes, so stick with the PvP up until you get some from hard mode raids.
All right. Road wrote in. Now that is a close win. 1,000 versus 995.
And that is Road from ToroCast.
Yep.
Playing a lot of Galactic Starfighter of late, he says.
Yeah, and he did really well. He was second on that board.
Clearly, he is learning.
And way above the rest of his team. By rights, it looks like the team was not so good, but he and another guy carried it.
Yep. Darth Cathgirl wrote in, not sure if this was mentioned recently, but you can buy stacks of Warzone Adrenals, planetary comms, casino chips, and so on using Shift plus left click. That's true.
Indeed. And then Red responded, also in preferences, you can turn off the confirmation prompt little window that pops up. Yeah, we've mentioned this quite a few times over the many shows, but it's worth mentioning again. Shift
It
left
really
click.
is.
Yeah,
Yep.
and it will give you a little thing that shows you, asks you how many of the item you want to purchase. Yeah.
Little slider bar, basically. Yep.
And beats left clicking from and purchasing them one by one from the vendor.
Yes, especially those stacks of 99. All right. Yeah, so like if you go to the casino, you'll definitely want to use that.
Definitely.
At Ghost Mirror wrote, I was going to ask if you guys have covered SWTOR Unleashed in the past.
I'm pretty sure we've referenced it a time or two. Your mileage may vary as far as how much use you get out of it. It is just an app which does various things to your system to make the game run faster. It effectively sets up a RAM disk to preload stuff off your disk. If you're running off an SSD anyway, you might see some performance improvement. If your hard drive is particularly slow, it might help. It's really just going to save loading time. I very much doubt it would improve the actual frame rate of. And I did try it once, and it screwed things up royally, and I've never touched it again. So personally, I wouldn't bother. I would stay away. But
All right.
Theoretically, though, it helps with load times, and that's mostly it. Okay.
yep.
Okay. Chef_Andro wrote, if I have artifact purple mods in armor as a preferred player and then remove it, can I re-equip the mod into new armor, or is it locked until I sub?
Well, as far as we know, when you are preferred or free to play, obviously preferred if you have previously been subbed, you are not able to equip purple items or put purple mods into adaptable armor unless you purchase the character-specific or account-wide artifact authorization, which is still a thing. They haven't actually removed that. So, however, if you were subbed and you have purple mods in your armor, you go to preferred. You get to keep any purple stuff that you have equipped or is bound to you. That's fine. But as far as we know, if you pulled them out, and then you would not be able to stick them back into your armor if you were preferred. So,
But you don't have
as
to
far as we
sub.
know,
You can
but
get
we
the
have not
unlock.
tested this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. You don't have to fully sub. You can get the unlock,
you can, but it's really expensive. So
but it's one time as well. So
it is. Yep, and would recommend account wide if you're going to do that. If you play more than 2 characters.
right. And Red, you have a discussion between Pez, Ufalong, and Neptune that you wanted to go over.
Yeah, so we got 3 emails from them or more, but we got emails from the 3 of them. And I guess the easiest one to mention first is Pez, because I think he made an excellent point. Ultimately, we ended up having this conversation has devolved and chased itself around the bush a few times, but ultimately, let's not forget that the point of his visiting was about how to maximize utilization of the dummies and the parsing equipment and how to get better. And that's, I would recommend re-listening to it. I've actually re-listened to it a few times for that very information. There were a few things that came up when he was talking about swapping out augments for accuracy, sacrificing primary stats so that you could get as close to 100% as possible. And he got that information from just seeing what other people had posted and what their gear sets were, because they're sharing it through Ask Mr. Robot or whatever other materials. And so he more than anything just wanted to mention that that's being done. It was in no way a recommendation, and let's remember that this is about how to use your parser and practice on the dummies. And I agree with all of his information on that. Both Ufalong and Neptune gave us huge breakdowns, and what really, from a mathematical standpoint, and Pez agrees with this, from a mathematical standpoint, the numbers might add up that, yes, you shouldn't be swapping out augments for accuracy. But the importance is that you definitely are over 110%. As it comes to items that have accuracy, both Ufalong and Neptune made very strong cases, and I had forgotten about this when I last spoke, but because I've been playing so much PvP, I'd forgotten about the limitations that PvEers have to access to gear that is properly stat distributed. PvEers cannot just go to a vendor and buy the exact enhancement that they want. They have to buy an entire item in order to strip that enhancement out and then put it into the piece that they want. So it is a very good idea if you have accuracy options for an earpiece or an implant to get the accuracy on that item. Otherwise, you're going to have to work a lot more and get item drops from bosses at the highest levels multiple times in order to get all of the enhancements you need. You're very limited on where your sources of accuracy lie. So take them on the earpiece and implants if you, at all costs if you can, particularly since you don't have stat bonuses in there. Fill it with that. And Nepthin's analysis was actually pretty telling. He'd mentioned it in the chat room, and I hadn't had a chance to talk to it. There's also a strong case that if you have an opportunity to get an earpiece or an implant before a set piece, you might want to pursue that, because the set pieces, there's a very slight difference at the 180 level where the earpiece and implants actually sacrifice 1 power for 2 more primary stat. It's just a very slight variation, and it probably has something to do with the fact that they don't have, mods, armorings, enhancements. They just get the stat distribution. But it's very slight. But you're going to get the exact same accuracy from it. Why on earth wouldn't you want 2 cunning for the cost of 1 power?
Right.
No matter what your opinion is on power versus cunning, having 1 more is a better deal.
Yeah, 100% gain is too much to overcome.
Right. But otherwise, yeah, I think we've already beaten the rest to death on the numbers. and that's really what it all boiled down to. Make sure your accuracy is over 100%. Definitely. Probably from a mathematical standpoint, it's best to keep your augments all primary stat, unless you're a tank. We'll ignore tanks. And yeah, and it's totally okay. Like, I've always done this in my own ops. I pretty much take the gear and the stats that are on it from the boss drops, and once I've got all of my pieces, then I worry about streamlining it. So if that, you should definitely, that's actually a big point too. Look at your gear that's for your class and your spec on the vendor before you go into the op, so that you know exactly where your accuracy pieces are and how many they are. Because you can choose from various different earpieces and implants and not sacrifice a set bonus. And if you don't have enough on the set pieces for your accuracy limit, then pursue that on your earpiece and implants. And that's it.
All right. Excellent. All right, well, that'll bring us to the Sarlacc Digest, where we go over the issues for 1,000 years, or until we run out of time. And today we're going to talk about voice comms. Well, this one's going over to you, Tio.
Okay, so Gaz Guy, who you guys met at in Las Vegas for the meetup, he has another topic that he suggested on our forums, in which he says, I have read forum threads in which some players adamantly state that to do high-level raiding, you must use live voice, some kind of voice comms. Do you agree? So, my response to that is, absolutely.
Yes.
100% yes.
As far as
Undeniable.
coordination
And same
goes,
thing for PvP, honestly.
yeah, as far as coordination goes, nothing beats being able to speak real time to people on voice, and being able to do that with just a single key press or whatever of some keybind, so to be able to mount mic up, or even just have voice activated, so you don't even have to press a button, you can just talk. Yeah, the alternative is to, well, either telepathy, which you might have trouble with, or chatting and just relying on raid chat. It's just not good enough to coordinate stuff unless everyone really, really knows the fights and their roles. Fine, but in practice,
yeah, too many things happen, and there's no ping system in the game like there are in some other games. So you can't like ping the minimap and to point people where you want to go. About the only other thing you can do is get those healer damage and tank markers and put those on the ground, but that's really awkward to do when you're in the middle of a fight.
yeah.
So yeah, it's got to be live voice.
All right, so let's talk about the, well, Gasco asks then, can you speak, to the relative merits of the various software packages available? Now things like, are they VoIP? And yes, they are. VoIP being voice over IP, Internet Protocol. And Skype is an example of that, of course. But the three big players as far as gaming goes are TeamSpeak, Ventrilo or Vent, and Mumble. There are a few others that have sort of been around, but those are the big three. Now, I'll just speak about each one briefly. When we started in our various guilds in WoW, we were using Ventrilo mainly, though I also did use TeamSpeak when I raided with the older gamers at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with TeamSpeak and Ventrilo, they are both proprietary in that they are owned by companies who keep the source code for building the servers and clients private, which means that the only people who can upgrade them are the companies themselves. And TeamSpeak has apparently been kind of slack about keeping their stuff up to date. There was like some big rewrite being planned.
Right.
I rarely come across TeamSpeak servers anymore, but obviously it still works and is being used.
Right. They were back in the day. They were considered top of the line, but they've sort of been supplanted first by Ventrilo and then also by Mumble.
Well, and honestly, Mumble I think is the strongest, just because they have the sound quality that rivals TeamSpeak 3.
Yeah, and Ventrilo is also proprietary, and it's again, it's a company that has pretty crap support, and there are apparently some lawsuits involved with patent infringement stuff, and it's all a little messy. Again, it works and is quite popular, but as I noticed when I've used it, it's somewhat higher latency, which means that when you actually talk, there is a slight delay, depending on the server and your location relative to it, when the other people hear it. And in boss encounters, that can be kind of fatal. Now, lastly is Mumble, which is what we use ourselves. We use Mumble boxes, which I found was the cheapest and yet best service I could find. There's an ad for it on our sidebar, just by the by. Oh yeah, and we do have a promo code for them too, called, I think, yes, Jawa, just Jawa, if you want to get a discount. Anyway, this isn't meant to be an ad for it. Mumble it's open source. Now, for those non-programs out there, what that means is the source code is not held by a private company behind closed doors.
It's not secret.
Anyone can look at it, both server and client. Anyone can actually modify it and submit those changes, bug fixes or whatever, for consideration by the people who run the open source project. Open source is preferred in that other people can look at the code and work on it besides the developers themselves. So anyone who cares can actually get in there and work with it. So, but what makes Mumble really good, as Red mentioned earlier, it has got good quality codecs being the thing that turns your voice into digital and back again, but they're low latency, which means, and that was the first thing I noticed when I started using Mumble, there is like no delay, regardless of where you are, and I've got a fairly high ping relative to our Mumble servers, which are in the US. The voice still gets through as quickly as it possibly could, given the realities of the internet. So yeah, if I was going to recommend a service, it would be Mumble. Particularly, well, firstly, it's cheaper typically because it's open source. There's just no proprietary fees on top. TeamSpeak and Ventrilo do tend to be a little bit more expensive if you're renting a server. Now, just talking about servers, you can actually run your own if you happen to have some box on the internet. But typically you rent the service from a third party. And there's all kinds of guys who do that. The aforementioned Mumble boxes. Typefrag is obviously a big one. There's a few others as well. Yeah, and the clients are all free. The only cost involved is typically the server hosting and purchasing that from a third party typically.
Right. Now, if you did Mumble, could you actually set up your own server?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Really?
No reason not to. If you have a server that has in a suitable location and etc. But
Good.
it's
good
usually
bandwidth
easier
and
just
so
to.
on.
Mm-hmm.
but it's easier to just to go with a company that's got hardware specifically designed to do it quickly and efficiently.
And is always online, as opposed to running on off your own PC, which may not be switched on.
Right.
It's certainly possible,
Right.
but yeah.
Well, and local ISPs are a lot more susceptible to local issues, whereas if you've got a
Exactly.
remote location, they're built to be robust.
Now, as far as setup goes, the method for all of them is fairly similar. You could argue Mumbles is a little bit rougher, but its Wizard for actually Audio Wizard for setting up is actually pretty good. Microphones, typically, Gascar was asking, do we use microphones desk-mounted or lapel mic? Usually
We're
headset.
podcasters.
Headsets are most common for most gamers.
Yeah.
I actually do
We do
use
not
my
use this
my
kind of
desk.
thing. Yeah, we do not use this kind of thing for when we're gaming. We usually use a headset, like Logitech is what I use, and that works just fine.
I actually keep my desk mic on the whole time.
Yeah, I use my desk mic too, but that's why I deliberately bought these headphones that doesn't have a mic on it. They're much higher quality too, which is great, and noise canceling.
Yeah.
But no, I always used a boom mic until I started podcasting because it's just so much more convenient. You got one plug into your computer.
Right.
Done.
All right, maybe it's just me who uses the headset then, but USB headset, you just plug it in and go. It's that easy.
Mm-hmm.
And I mentioned earlier, voice activated or push to talk are your two options. Voice activated means whenever you speak, it detects that and switches on your mic. That can have all kinds of unintended consequences if there's just random noise,
Right.
and which turning on like the oddest. You can adjust its sensitivity as to when it switches on, but that's kind of flaky. I would recommend push to talk, honestly.
Yeah,
Which-
I mean, otherwise, how are you going to swear when something goes wrong?
Indeed.
And something always goes wrong in an operation.
So Gaskai ends with, what is our recommendation? My personal recommendation would be Mumble without a doubt, because its quality is good, its latency is low, and it's cheaper. It's like, it's all
Right.
win, basically.
Yeah, lots of people updating it as well on the back on the
Yep.
inside.
Yeah, I will always prefer open source to a proprietary solution simply because it has more eyes on it and more people can contribute to it. If you feel you're a programmer and you want to pitch in, why not? All right. Do you guys have an alternate suggestion?
No, that's pretty much what I would do.
Are we addressing his desire to have it built into the game?
No, that's someone else. One second.
That's
Getting
Gerald.
to
Yeah.
that.
Ah, okay.
Now, we also had an email from Gerald. Now, what he says is, SWTOR needs in-game VoIP, VoIP being voice. I'm surprised you guys never talk about it. It's so much more convenient than using a third-party app, and one has only to pay a game that has it to know what I'm talking about. And one has only to play a game that has it to know what I'm talking about. For example, he likes EverQuest 2 implementation of VoIP. It works really well. It automatically places you in a VoIP channel depending on the circumstances. The default tends to be your guild channel. If you join a group or pug, you can easily change it to the group channel. You can also pick none if you don't want to hear anyone talking. There is also a local channel, which is people physically around your toon, as though you're talking to them in person. And on top of it all, they have a simple window that shows everyone in your channel and who is talking, where you can click on them and select their individual volume if they're too loud or quiet. Not having to load another app, make sure everyone is using the same app, etc. is so convenient. Actually, having VoIP in pugs is nice. It kills me that with the money SWTOR is bringing in, that they don't add that as a feature. Ah, well, I guess people get used to using what they use. Okay, so all that's true enough, but, well, the big advantage of having a voice service outside the game is you can use it outside the game. Like if someone isn't able to log in, you can actually talk, but that's a kind of edge case. I
Is
guess,
it? Because that's what I use it for all the frickin' time.
well, there is that. And given the cost is so low of a shared server, it's not that big a deal, honestly. And people can actually use it if they're playing other games. Perish the thought. I kind of like the way he describes EverQuest has done it. The only game I've played that's had in-game voice, I think, is WoW. Apparently had in-game voice.
And no
So
one
was
Really?
Zebra was. Yeah.
No one
But it
used
was.
I remember that being developed, but I quit before I think they implemented
Yeah,
it.
but apparently it was terrible. I don't think I ever tried it. So
Yeah, I think I've tried it once or twice, and it was not a good experience. And for the most part, it was almost impossible to find someone else who had it turned on. Anyway, so yeah.
I mean, naturally, the most difficult part of it all is the fact that, I mean, you run into the console issue where you're just matched up with anybody and everybody, and you have to listen to them whether or not you like it, and they'll immediately start spewing racial slurs or terrible things in your ear that you just don't want to hear. And you know, there isn't an easy way to turn it off without turning it all off, but maybe there's one person worth listening to where, you know, you'd rather just talk to your friend and not use the game program.
I guess this is like Xbox Live's voice, if you've ever used that. I haven't, but I've heard all kinds of things about it.
I have not personally used it. I have been in the room with friends using it, and it's not fun to listen to.
Indeed. So I guess control, that is, you control the environment in which the voice server that you have for your guild, typically. And if you want to invite other people into it, great.
Mm-hmm.
But, I don't know, talking to a bunch of random people who you don't know.
I swear I heard somewhere about like some voice system that the closer you were to people, then you would hear them, but then you could walk away, and then it's like, okay, then you're gonna have that troll stalker that just keeps chasing you and hurling insults at you. I mean, talk about PvP server hell as he's sitting on your dead body's face and waiting for you to respawn, and he's just talking to you the whole time.
And you realize it's a 12-year-old or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so...
I mean, honestly, for me, the biggest thing is no questions asked. My buddies and I switch factions, switch guilds, you know, switch characters. We're in and out of the game. I mean, is it going to be doing the voice while I'm on a log screen, or do I have to be in the game? And, you know, managing all of that externally. And then, yeah, sometimes we're playing together, somebody jumps out. Hell, I'm always on the voice program before I log into the game, because then while I'm going through load screens and everything, I've got people to talk to, or I'm checking the voice before I log into the game because maybe I don't want to play unless my friends are online already. I mean, there's just so many reasons why I would always use a third-party one. And then to your original point, the whole notion of proprietary, you know BioWare isn't going to open source the voice.
Hell no.
So when these solutions already exist and they're pretty trivial to deal with, I mean, even the newest MMO players have figured it out pretty quick. I just don't, and then you could have the whole conspiracy theorists that say, oh, they built it into the game and they can turn on your microphone remotely and listen to your room if your computer's on and the game's on, and even if you turn it off. I mean,
that's a bit out there.
Yeah, but they're those crazy, you know, that's what they talk about with Xbox One all the time. Oh, it's always listening, it's recording, they're putting this and that and whatever. It's just so much easier to be third party.
I'd actually found it immersion breaking as well. Like if you're around a bunch of characters, their voices in real life are typically not going to match what their character looks like.
Right.
So I don't want to hear. I'd rather just keep it all up in my imagination.
You don't want to have your little Twillick friend sidling up to you and saying, "Hey, Dio, how's it going, baby?"
Definitely not. Anyway, that's our discussion on voice comms. Any final thoughts?
No. Are there any other, besides Mumble, is there anything sort of else on the horizon? Like any major changes or anything like that going on?
Not that I'm aware of.
There haven't been any big breakthroughs or anything like that?
No.
Yeah, well, pretty easy then.
I guess I should mention I actually use Hangouts 24/7 with all of my friends. The only time I get onto any of these services is actually for guild stuff. You know, because that way we're just switching behind. And we like using the video. We've all got good enough internet that we're, I've got 2 monitors. I can talk to people and actually look at them, and so and Skype would be another solution very similar to it.
Yeah, and the nice thing about Skype, as far as this goes, is if you're just doing like PvP with someone that you don't really know well or whatever, and you don't want to give out your guild's password, which might if they turn out to be a jerk, you might have to change the password for everyone. You can just, give them your Skype name. You get on Skype, you talk, while you're doing your PvP. Great, all's well that ends well, and you're done. If he does turn out to be a jerk, you can then just turn off his Skype account for as far as you're concerned.
Now, the
Yeah,
downside
put
of
'em on
both
ignore or
Google
whatever.
Hangouts and Skype, I believe, is that neither of them have a push-to-talk option. It's
Correct.
basically always on. That's the only downside. You can mute yourself, obviously, in both cases, but that's not as convenient
awkward.
as
And
push-to-talk.
the other side of that too is the fact that the reason we got so into using Hangouts and moved away from TeamSpeak or Mumble or any of it was because of the lack of push to talk. Because we started getting into GSF really hardcore, and it's so active with both of the hands that I just didn't have room for a push to talk and to even use it in the thick of combat.
So there you go. There is use case for that as well. Yeah. Anyway, it's always up to you, but yeah, mumble.
All right, that's the show. If you'd like to play with us in the Utini Knights Guild on the Republic side of the Harbinger server, or in our
Utini, a rage!
Guild on the Empire side, do a /c join Utini to join the Utini channel. Then ask for the quiz that lets us know you're a fan of the show. You can email questions and comments about the show to utinicast@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter. We're on @UtiniCast. I Twitter under my own name @BrandonL Star, and Tio uses his name @Jason Etheridge. Red Twitter's under @R3DN4, or you can watch him on twitch.tv/R3DN4. Check out our website, utinicast.com, which has links to our presence on Google Plus and Facebook. You can subscribe to us on iTunes. We're also on Stitcher and Spreaker. We record the show live every Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. Pacific. Go to utinicast.com/live to find out how to join in. Our theme song is from Mevio's Music Alley. Check it out at music.mevio.com. That's MEVIO. And thank you to the chat room, and thanks, Red.
Thank you very much.
And we'll see you next week.
All right, guys. Oh, actually, don't stop your recording. Just keep running.
Okay.
We'll say goodbye to the chat room. Goodbye,
Goodbye, chat room.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. Sorry it's a short show.
Goodbye.
Next week will be even shorter for reasons. But
Reasons.
Scheduling reasons.
But the one after that will
Scheduling.
probably be long.
yeah, yes, it will. Yes, it will. Oh yeah. All right, and yeah, it will become painfully clear what we're alluding to next week. Next week. All right. Thank you very much, and good night.